The Renaissance was a time for great thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci and Sir Isaac Newton. It was when Beethoven and Mozart would compose their most famous musical masterpieces. The government was also different in the Renaissance. Their monarchy still ruled, but society had turned into an oligarchy, which is when a smaller group of people would have all the power. The nobles considered themselves to be better than the common people, and they controlled many aspects of day-to-day life. At the same time, Christopher Columbus decided to find a new trading route that would lead to India. So he jumped in a boat and sailed across the Atlantic. He got lost, and of course he wouldn't stop and ask for directions, so he ended up in the Bahamas and discovered America. The settlers decided they should take over the New World from the so-called native savages. Never mind the fact that the native North Americans had their own systems of government, such as the Iroquois Confederacy, which had been in place for thousands of years and actually worked very well. Unimaginable numbers of settlers arrived from Europe and proceeded to take over the entire continent. It wasn't very long before the settlers started fighting against each other, and a guy named George Washington decided to wage war against the British to secure their own country. In 1776, the 13 colonies signed the Declaration of Independence and formed the United States of America. After fighting a civil war between the North and the South, America quickly grew to dominate the West. But they were not the only new country, with Canada being formed in 1867. In just a couple of hundred years, the world had become a radically different place. The Industrial Revolution changed the whole world in a matter of decades. But of course, with new times come new conflicts, and 2 world wars would be fought, with the second being against one of the most brutal regimes ever. There were 3 great waves of democracy in the 20th century. The first after World War II, when many European countries became independent states. The second wave occurred between 1960 and 1975 in Southeast Asia, where one conflict would change the way people looked at politics. Damn it. The 60s were a time of revolution. The civil rights movement sought to make every person equal. Teenagers discovered art and music that challenged the mind. And the Vietnam War ignited the minds of the youth who were fed up with boring old politicians controlling their lives. And in the 60s, 2 politicians would emerge who would capture the minds of entire countries. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was born in 1917 into a large Democratic family. During World War II, he fought in the PT boats in the South Pacific. After World War II, he was elected to Congress and served for 6 years before becoming a senator. In 1960, JFK announced that he was going to run for president, and he, along with future President Richard Nixon, took part in one of the first televised debates. JFK was a tremendously good speaker who managed to get everyone's attention.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
JFK was elected president in 1961, and he became one of the most popular presidents ever. But unfortunately, his presidency and his life was cut short when President Kennedy was assassinated on November 22, 1963. Pierre Elliott Trudeau was born in 1919. He earned several law degrees and was a practicing attorney for many years before he became Justice Minister under Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson. When Trudeau himself ran for Prime Minister, what has been described as Trudeau-mania took over the country. Trudeau was elected in 1968, and he would become one of the longest-serving Prime Ministers in Canadian history. He would accomplish many great things as Prime Minister, including repatriating the Constitution in 1982. But he is best remembered for changing a nation with his intelligence and his legendary...
At any cost? At any cost? How far would you go with that? How far would you extend that?
Well, just watch me.